So the question was, how often are we sharing our model data? The design build one was a little bit odd. I'll talk about the design bid build ones. They were, I think we shared probably 2, maybe 3 times. So there might have been one early on, like a DD, and then they read it in, they looked at it, they maybe connected some of it up, and didn't really do much with it while design continued. A couple weeks later, we sent them another model that had almost all of the floor framing in it, some of the secondary stuff, and then there's final one about 95% or something. So I'm not going to pretend that every single element went in electronically, but a big chunk of it went in electronically. Yes?
In our model sharing.
Today I have 1.
So can you repeat the question?
Oh, how many detailers are we working with on these projects? And the answer to that is 1 today. Go ahead.
Well, that also.
So for our work, we use RAM steel for analysis. We're using Bentley for BIM because the CIS2 export from Bentley and into SDS2 for detailing was the little goat path we could find to do this incrementally. We did a lot of testing with Revit, 11, 12, 13, I'm not sure we looked at 14, and I never got a comfort level that the CIS2 export was correct, let alone had all the information it needed to have. Generally speaking, it was only doing section sizes. And 3, had no global ID that allowed tracking of that information importing into SDS2. Sort of a long story. There was a detailer that was next. I'm sorry. How did I find our detailer? There was a detailer that was in the building next to us where our office is. I had some exposure to him, 2007-ish time frame, something like that. He had some SDS2 licenses and was interested in BIM. I don't remember how we got connected. When the economy tanked, he ended up having to close down his shop. So as this came up 2 years ago for us, I called him back because I knew he was interested. I didn't know if he still had people around that he'd be willing to start back up again. He didn't. He knew the detailer that I was working with. He said, "You need to call this guy. He's progressive and really interested in the whole technology portion of it." Turns out he'd been involved in SDS from day one when it started from 2D to 3D. He was there for that day. So right there, I know he's interested in technology. And if the projects had gone in reverse, I would have been a little bit more concerned, but the way the projects fell out and kind of the simple office building, we kind of got to work together. I realized that they're asking the right questions, they're helping us out, find mistakes. It's not just to throw it over the fence and there's a lot of communication back and forth, and they were thinking about things being able to be erected correctly, things that we might not normally think about as an engineer. I don't know if that helps a whole lot, but that's kind of how it went. Anybody else? SDS2 kind of does it automatically. It's different from Tekla. So part of our transfer of information is the reactions from our analysis model, and the way SDS2 works is that stuff can be read in and all the connections are... I'm speaking a little bit out of school here, but basically you have things set up for how members are connected and what connections you want, and when you bring all that in, it connects everything up and does the connection design for you. Really, at the end of the day, a simple beam to a simple girder, that's not what we're laying awake at night about. Those things have been around, they're in books and everything for years. So, we go back and we look at the messy ones that where a member's not framing in top of steel to top of steel and whatnot. So, anybody else? Yes. So do we have any questions from contractors or from the contractors about fabricators not wanting to bid? Nope. The first 2 fabricators were absolutely tickled to death.
I guess I was meaning that in their overhead, were they having in-house detailers sitting doing nothing?
No. Both of the 2 that were design bid build go outside for detailing. And we've actually got another project coming down the road that has been kind of gummed up in review or whatever. Not owner review, not building review. That the contractor, because it's a public job, couldn't offer the shop drawings as part of the CDs, if you will. So we've contacted all the fabricators, and if, unless I know differently, we'd be doing the shop drawings for that the selected fabricator. But generally speaking, the first two, both fabricators specifically told me if they never had to deal with shop drawings again, it would be too soon. So.
How are you handling?
No, there's no. So how does ownership of the detailers model? There is no contract for that ownership. He keeps it at his shop, and we keep our BIM in our shop. There's a level of trust there that I don't ask for the. I mean, what would I do with the detailers model?
Well,
So-
if you were doing an expansion on the structure, it would be better to have the model.
So to add on to that, no, we have not addressed that. Short answer, and he would not have a problem with that. And he's here, and he shook his head. So I know there's no problem with that. But at the end of the day, now our model, our BIM, is just as good as his, except it doesn't have the connections in it. So if for some reason that was a huge problem, we still have our BIM that we could use for future. Yep. Yes?
Most 2D drawing sets usually,
We put it in 100%. So the question was secondary framing, basically, is that in our model?
is that the responsibility of the engineer versus us as detailers going to the architectural?
We've coordinated that with the architect. We've been putting secondary members in our buildings since 2008. It's just, we get it on our plan. So, we put the stuff where we want it to be.
One of the most difficult things I find these days is to obtain slab edges. So I guess you would work all that out with the architect.
We've coordinated that. I mean, it's hard. Yep. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, you can come up and ask me.